From Sigma Woman, this is the Business for Aligned Women podcast. I'm your host, Clara McKay, your aligned business coach and advocate for all things showing up for your vision. This is a no BS space for brave-hearted women who are actually craving change. I'm dedicated to bringing women's visions into reality, equipping women with all they need to build an abundant future, and shutting down all of the ways that you keep yourself small. Here, we're all about a women-centered approach, non-negotiable value alignment, and making bank without compromising your well-being. Each week, you're already one step closer to your most aligned and abundant future. This is a really quick win little episode, and I wanted to talk about 10 things not to do in your business. Before we get into it, I'm going to remind you of a freebie that I released quite a few months ago. It's my podcast planner. If you're someone who has a podcast or you're thinking about starting a podcast, this is a beautiful tool for you to get started. And if you have a podcast or you're thinking about starting one, I do invite you to check out my profitable podcast training, which I will link in the show notes, because I have been having a lot of conversations in coaching with people who have started a podcast and it's really not making sales, even though that's why they wanted to start in the first place. And we're having to redo it because they just haven't set their podcast up with the structures to make it a client acquisition channel, as in somewhere where you're going to get clients who are going to pay you. So if that's you, this training is going to solve all of it. And it's a really gentle, really in-depth, no fluff training that will support you so much on that podcasting journey. Today, I wanted to do a quick episode. I'm not going to be talking too much today, of little quick wins that you could action in your business today, because I keep seeing very simple mistakes really frequently. And they're all very easy to fix. And if they were fixed, they could be really transformative. There's a lot of social media stuff I'm talking about today. There's a lot of professionalism stuff I'm talking about, and it's a little bit all over the place. But if you go through this list of 10 things and make sure that you're not doing them, it's really going to benefit you. Posting on your social media, but having no link for people to buy from you. Which seems so silly because it's a business and buying from you is the whole point. But I think people sometimes get swept up in social media and they don't remember their reason for doing it. Even if maybe you don't have an active sales page up right now, at least putting a wait list. You always want people to go on your mailing list, and maybe it's just join the mailing list for further information. But don't get caught up in making content when you don't have anywhere to direct people, because the whole point is people are going to find you. They're not going to have anywhere to go, and then they're going to forget about you and find someone else who is sorted out. Next one is going to be niche, and some people don't know this, but using a Yahoo, iCloud, or Hotmail email address is a fucking disaster for a business, because all of those email platforms really wildly filter emails. So if you're trying to communicate with someone, or someone's reached out to you and asked if they can work with you, you may never see that email. So you don't want to have them. And honestly, if anyone is trying to run a business with them, please, my goodness, go and fix it today. Get a different account. And on the same vein, emailing people from a personal email address that isn't a domain email address. And what I mean by that is like at yourdomain.com rather than at Gmail or at Hotmail. That really screams unprofessional. And there's a lot of systems and automation tools that actually require you to have a domain email address. So setting that up is going to be supportive all around. And when people receive your emails, they're just going to see, she's professional. She's got it sorted out. Not registering for tax. Now, this is a little bit niche and it's a bit more Australian, but in Australia, we have something called GST, Goods and Services Tax, which kicks in at about $75,000. You can register for that actually at any point in time. And I might be showing some of my judgmentalness in this episode. That's fine. I'll take it for the team. But if you send me an invoice and you're not registered for GST, I immediately know that you're making less than $75,000, and it immediately makes me look at your business in a certain way. Okay. If you don't want people knowing exactly how much money you make, register for GST, because if I just see that GST on that invoice, I feel safer and I trust you more. Using a custom font in your social media. Now, what I mean by this is rather than using the manual font that is in Instagram, going and copying and pasting a pretty font from somewhere else. Only specific operating systems can read that. Probably 80% of people, what you've written is just symbols. Like if you grew up in the 90s, windings in Microsoft Word. So that is stupid. You want everyone to be able to read that. So don't use any custom fonts in your social media. Blocking DMs on social media. This, like, I get it. Like, I don't want to get too many DMs. I get it. Sometimes it can be stressful. There's a lot of different automation tools that you can use to manage your DMs if they are overwhelming you. But if you've got your DM set so that only friends can message you, but you're running a business, like, come on. And I've had situations where, and there's kind of 2 points, these 2 points link into this story. People have booked a sales call with me and then they haven't shown up because I'm very certain that their email has filtered the email with the link for the call and they think I've just rejected them. I've not allowed them to have a call with me. And then I've gone to send them a DM to check in with them and I can't DM them. And then I've sent them an email going, hey, look, even if you don't want to talk to me, that's fine. But like, I've noticed that your DMs are only set for friends and please open them up for the public because you might have people who want to work with you or trying to get in contact with you. And because I have an email tracker, that person never opened that email because I know it's sitting in a filtered spam box somewhere. That's for me. But that's also happening on a different level where people are trying to work with them and they think they're not getting any action, but it's because everything's blocked. And they're going into the next point, which is not routinely checking your spam folder. You should be checking your spam folder as often as you're checking your inbox. And if that's crazy to you, set aside time to check it once a week, because I know for myself, I've had like really big opportunities come through and be filtered in spam and be sitting in there. I know also in my business, I've reached out to people to be on my podcast and they really want to be on my podcast, but they never saw the email because it was in their spam and they never checked it. If you're running a business, you should be checking your spam folder. Come on. It's this level of professionalism. Not using SEO on social media. Now, that is a whole thing in and of itself, which I would cover more in coaching and we don't have time to do today, but you can go and Google that. There's loads and loads of different ways to incorporate search engine optimization across social medias, and all the different channels have different requirements. But a really simple, easy one that you can action today is having the name of your service in your Instagram name. So where you have your name, saying what you do there as well, because that is one of the only ways that the search function on Instagram will pick you up. So for instance, if I want a podcast editor, I can type podcast editor into Instagram and all the people who are smart enough to have that in their name will come up. If you just have your name, I'm never searching your name. So go and change that right away today. And if that means that you can't have your surname, don't worry about it. Put your first name and then put your service. Overthinking content with a short shelf life. And this isn't necessarily something that I see people do a lot. It's more people communicate with me that they do it. So if you're getting really in your head and you're really having to work yourself up to create an Instagram post or story that really has a less than a 24-hour shelf life, don't be doing that. And also another little add-on to that is if you create like a really amazing reel, rather than making it a 10-minute reel, make that 100 1-minute reels. That's not math. Never said I was good at maths. You know what I mean. Break it up, get more out of that piece of content because they do only have a short shelf life. Last two, not being proactive, following up leads. When you work with me, we create a schedule, and part of that schedule is at least every month checking in with who has talked to you about maybe working with you or maybe buying your product, or who's asked a question. And we have lots of different systems for that, some of which can be automated. I spoke to someone yesterday who, after me kind of hammering them about following up on their leads, they had talked to someone a few months ago and they'd rejected them for whatever reason. And they just thought, oh, maybe I should just send an email and just touch base. Bam, $20,000 invoice coming in the next couple of weeks, but she would have lost $20,000 if she hadn't had that conversation. That is, full on. So ensuring that you are routinely and proactively following up on your leads. You don't need to hassle people, but just I'm checking in, how are you going with that? And I would check in like 2 or 3 times. And then if they don't respond to you, firstly, that person's rude. You do not want to be dealing with them because they are going to be feral to deal with. Okay. But also, if they don't respond 3 times, I personally would send a message going, this is the final time that I'm going to try and reach out to you. Do you want to continue talking about this? Has something come up? Do you have any feedback for me? And then shut it down after that. But hopefully you're attracting professional people who conduct themselves with manners, and they will respond to you either way. And you're going to have a nice conversation and just touch base with people by following up on that lead. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if someone's reached out to you and said they want to work with you and then they've fallen off. Sometimes people just need reminders. Sometimes people have forgotten, something's come up in their life. Sometimes they're rude. The last one is not following anyone else on Instagram. I'm specifically talking about Instagram with this. I see it sometimes where people think it's cool to have 0 following or 1 follower where they just follow themselves or they follow their other account or they follow their partner or whatever. Instagram is a community-based platform. The more that you show that you're an active and engaged part of that community and you're interacting with other people, the more reach you're going to get. So I see a lot of people doing this and they have 1,000 or 2,000 followers, and you're going to struggle to grow if you're not showing that you're part of that community. I would love to know if you are doing some of these and if you're going to fix them. And if you fix them, I would love to know. If you can't tell, getting to share this time with you is something that I find truly sacred. I know that you're busy, but if you've taken anything away from our time spent together today, could you extend the love and share this episode with a friend, your community, or on your socials? Tag me so that I can see it and I can share it too. Or when you have a spare moment, leave the podcast a review. These things cost you nothing and will mean so much to me. Let's get this resource into the hands of more women visionaries and help us collectively move towards our most aligned way of being and doing business together.